Hello everyone, and welcome back to Mind the Gap. It's Casey here. Quick question to start. Have you ever had that moment where you know the words in your head, you open your mouth, and then absolutely nothing comes out? Like your brain just shuts the shop early?
Hi everyone, Jen here. Shuts the shop early is painfully accurate. And if that's you, I want to start by saying something very clearly. This isn't you being weak or lazy or not cut out for languages. It's actually a really common learning pattern. So if you've been quietly blaming your personality, you can put that down for a moment.
Thank you, because honestly, I've said to myself maybe I'm just not confident, but it's not even a dramatic fear. It's more like I'm in a normal conversation, someone looks at me and my mind goes blank. And then I think, right, I should probably just stay quiet until I'm 100% sure.
And that little sentence, I'll speak when I'm sure, sounds sensible, doesn't it? It sounds mature. It sounds like you're being careful. But it's also one of the most expensive habits in language learning. Not because you're doing something wrong morally, but because it trains your brain into a very specific routine. Silence first, safety first.
I feel called out already. But also, it's kind of comforting that you're not saying, just be brave, because people say that all the time. And I'm like, yes, lovely, I'll just download bravery.
Exactly, and we're not going to do that today. We're not going to do the motivational poster version. This first part is more like, let's understand what's happening, because once you understand it, you stop making it personal.
All right, so what's actually going on? Because it genuinely feels like my brain is being dramatic for attention.
It does feel like that, but here's a grounded way to picture it. Imagine you want to learn swimming, and instead of getting in the pool, you stand at the edge with a notebook writing kick, breathe, You highlight it, you make a lovely diagram, you watch videos, you can even explain swimming to your mates.
But the second you touch water, you panic.
Exactly, because your body never got the practice of being in the water. And language can be like that. You can know English on paper, but when it becomes real time with someone waiting for you, your system goes, nope, too risky. It's not that you're stupid, it's that your brain is trying to protect you from uncertainty.
So it's not just a confidence issue. It's like the brain hates uncertainty, and speaking is basically uncertainty on a timer.
That's a good way to put it. Speaking is uncertainty on a timer, and because it feels risky, your brain tries to move you back into your safest mode, which for most people is translate carefully, double check, say nothing until you're sure. But the price is you don't get enough real practice, so the fear doesn't fade. It just sits there like a house guest who never leaves.
The worst kind of guest, the one who eats your biscuits as well.
And the thing is, this isn't just vibes. Researchers have tried to measure this, and there's a big pattern. When learners feel higher levels of anxiety in language settings, their performance tends to drop. In a large meta-analysis, the relationship between foreign language anxiety and achievement was moderately negative, around R equals minus 0.39. That's not tiny, that's a real effect.
So basically, if you're anxious, it's not just in your head, as in imaginary. It's in your head, as in it affects your actual results.
Yes, that's the point. And I'm bringing that up for one reason, because people often think I'm failing because I'm not disciplined enough, or I'm failing because I'm shy. But actually, anxiety can act like a handbrake. You can press the accelerator by studying more, but if the handbrake is still on, the car just screams and doesn't move properly.
That's such a horrible image, because I can feel it. Like you're working hard, you're revising, you're doing everything, and still nothing flows.
Exactly, and then you blame yourself harder, which adds more pressure, and that pressure makes you even more anxious, and then the handbrake tightens again. So today, in this opening section, we're doing something a bit kinder, and also more practical. We're saying, this is a known pattern. Your brain is responding to risk.
Can we talk about the risk part for a second?
because sometimes I'm not even in a scary situation. It could be a friendly chat. It could be a tutor who's nice, but I still freeze.
Yeah, that's very common, because the risk isn't always the person in front of you. Often it's the meaning you attach to making a mistake. If somewhere along the way mistakes became linked to embarrassment, being judged, being corrected harshly, or even just feeling stupid, then your brain starts treating speaking like a social threat, not a grammar task, a social threat.
So it's less, I don't know the grammar, and more, if I mess this up, I'm going to look ridiculous.
That's it. And once it's in that lane, your brain does what it's designed to do. It goes into protection mode. You might overthink, you might try to build the perfect sentence, you might replay what you said for hours afterwards, or you might just go quiet. Different styles, same route.
The replaying part is brutal. Like you're in the shower later and you suddenly remember you said something weird and you physically cringe.
Yep, and again, that doesn't mean you're broken, it means you care. And you've probably had enough experiences where mistakes felt costly. So for anyone listening, if your inner voice is saying, why can't I just speak normally? I want you to swap that question for a better one. What is my brain trying to protect me from right now?
That feels oddly calming, because it turns it into something you can understand, rather than something you have to shame yourself for.
Exactly, because shame makes you smaller, and learning needs you to take up a bit of space, not in an arrogant way, just in a human way. And we're not saying go out and embarrass yourself for fun. We're saying let's stop treating silence as the only safe option.
So the headline for this first chapter is basically, if you freeze, you're not lazy, you're not hopeless, and you're not uniquely terrible at English. You're having a very normal reaction to pressure.
That's spot on. And once you accept that, you can actually work with it. Because in the next part, we're going to flip a really common belief. People think the goal is to avoid mistakes at all costs. But actually, that belief is often what keeps the anxiety alive. We'll get into that.
All right, I'm in. And if you're listening and thinking, this is me, just stay with us. You don't need a personality transplant. You just need a different understanding of what speaking practice is doing in your brain.
Perfect. Let's carry on.
That thing you said at the end, Jen, about a belief keeping anxiety alive, it's been buzzing in my head. Because I do this thing where I treat English like a test I'm sitting every time I open my mouth.
Yeah, that's a familiar feeling. And it's funny because once you start treating speaking like an exam, you begin chasing correct and you stop chasing progress. They sound similar, but they behave completely differently.
Okay, but help me out. What's the difference in real life? Because correct feels safer, like less embarrassing.
Totally fair. So here's a picture. A lot of people think the brain learns language like a photocopier. You see the perfect sentence, you copy it, you store it, and then you produce it later. But the brain is much closer to a sat-nav. It's constantly guessing, checking, and recalculating.
So it's not copy and paste. It's more like guess and adjust.
That's the idea. And because it's guessing, it needs moments where the guess is slightly wrong. Not wildly wrong, but wrong enough that your brain goes, oh, hang on, update needed. That little jolt is how the system grows.
But when I make a mistake, my brain doesn't go update needed. It goes shut everything down.
Yeah, because you're not only processing language, you're also processing the social moment. You're thinking, how do I look? And that's why we're flipping the story. The goal isn't to be mistake-free, the goal is to be update-ready.
Update ready. That sounds like a phone.
Honestly, it's not a bad comparison. If your phone refuses updates because it's scared something might go wrong, it stays stuck. It might feel stable, but it gets outdated. And language does that too.
So when I'm obsessing over accuracy, I'm sort of protecting myself from that update moment.
Because update moments usually come with a tiny bit of discomfort, and your brain goes, no thanks. But here's the twist. If you avoid that discomfort every time, you also avoid the improvement every time.
Okay, give me an example that's painfully real.
Alright, the first time I ordered coffee in the UK properly years ago, I wanted oat milk. In my head it was crystal clear. Out loud I said something that sounded like old milk. The barista just looked at me like I'd asked for milk from the Victorian era.
Old milk is actually disgusting.
Exactly. And in that moment I got feedback instantly. Not a lecture, not a grammar rule, just a face that said, try again. So I repeated it, oat milk. And because I had that awkward tiny moment, the sound locked in.
So the embarrassment was basically the price of the lesson, but it was a small price, not a life-ruining one.
That's it. A small price, fast feedback, immediate retry. That's how updates happen. And that's why we call mistakes data. If you can see the mistake and you can adjust, it becomes useful information, not a personal failure.
But what if I freeze and I can't even retry? Like my throat tightens and my brain is shouting, abort mission.
Then your brain is still treating the moment as danger, not practice. Which is why we're being picky about the belief. If your belief is, I must be correct, then every mistake feels like a threat. But if your belief is, I'm here to update, then mistakes feel more like a signal.
So you're saying fluency isn't built from perfect sentences, it's built from lots of imperfect attempts that get corrected.
I'd say so, yeah. Fluency is more like responsiveness. You hear something, you respond, you adjust. And that's why people who wait until they're 100% sure often feel stuck. They're not giving the sat-nav anything to recalibrate with.
This is making me think of how I revise. I'll polish a sentence in my notes for 10 minutes, and then I never actually say it to a human. That's slightly tragic.
It's common though, because notes feel safe, but speaking is alive. Speaking has timing and faces and tiny surprises, and those surprises are not a bug, they're the whole training.
So, the new way to judge progress is not, did I say it perfectly? It's more like, did I update faster this time?
You've nailed it. And that's a much kinder standard as well, because it rewards movement. It rewards trying again. And once you start rewarding updates, mistakes stop feeling like a red stamp on your forehead.
I like that. Reward movement. Because then the question becomes, what am I actually scared of? Not, how do I become perfect?
Exactly, and that sets us up nicely, because next we're going to talk about the real break, which isn't even the mistakes. It's what mistakes make you do afterwards, like going quiet. That's where things really slow down.
That line about going quiet really hit me, because I can picture myself doing it. I'll have one awkward moment, and then for the rest of the conversation, I basically turn into furniture, present but not participating.
Furniture is a strong image, but yeah, that's it. And this is where things get a bit uncomfortable, because the biggest problem often isn't the mistake, it's the silence that comes after.
But the silence feels sensible, like damage control. If I don't speak, I can't mess up again.
Yeah, that's the trap. Silence is brilliant short-term protection, but it's terrible long-term training, because language is a skill that grows from reps. And if the reps don't happen, the skill doesn't build.
Reps, like the gym.
Exactly, but let's keep it grounded. If you go to the gym once every 3 weeks, and each time you wait until you feel fully ready, you'll never really build anything. Not because you're weak, but because your body never gets enough consistent signals to adapt.
So with English, if I only speak when I'm ready, I'm basically doing the 3 weeks gym plan.
Pretty much. And what makes it worse is the ready feeling often doesn't arrive without practice. It's not like confidence shows up first and then you speak. More often, you speak, you survive it, and then confidence arrives later.
That's annoying, because it means my plan is backwards. I'm waiting for the thing that only comes after.
Yeah, and that's why we call it a loop. You avoid speaking because you feel anxious, but because you avoid speaking, you get fewer samples. And because you get fewer samples, every time you do speak, it feels like a first performance again, so the anxiety stays high.
When you say samples, it's like my brain is trying to build a picture, but I'm giving it 3 blurry photos a month.
That's a really good image, and your brain hates blurry data. So it does the cautious thing. It slows down, it double-checks, it translates, and then you feel even less fluent.
Which then makes me speak even less.
Exactly, and this is where that research line fits in, without turning this into a lecture. A lot of studies suggest that when language anxiety goes up, willingness to communicate tends to go down, so you speak less and the cycle strengthens.
Okay, but here's my defense. If I don't speak, at least I don't embarrass myself. That's a win, isn't it?
It's a win for your ego in the moment, yeah. And honestly, sometimes you do need that. But if it becomes the default, the cost shows up later. You end up paying with stagnation.
So I'm basically trading no mistakes for no progress. That sounds brutal when you say it out loud.
I know, and I'm not saying it to shame anyone. I'm saying it because it's the clearest way to see the mechanism. Silence feels like control, but it quietly removes your chances to update.
But how do we tell the difference between taking a breather and building a habit of disappearing? Because I can genuinely do both.
That's a fair question, and the difference is usually what happens next. If you pause and then you re-enter, that's a breather. But if you pause and then you keep retreating for the rest of the chat, that's training your brain that silence equals safety.
And my brain loves that rule. It's like, great, we found the emergency exit, let's use it every time.
Exactly. And the tricky bit is, the brain doesn't care about your long-term goals. It cares about your immediate comfort. So it will always vote for the emergency exit, unless you give it a safer way to stay in the room.
So this chapter's basically saying the thing slowing me down isn't my bad grammar, it's the fact that I'm not getting enough time on the pitch.
That's a brilliant way to put it. Less time on the pitch means every appearance feels high stakes, whereas frequent low-stakes speaking makes the whole thing feel more normal.
And that's why I can do all right in my room, practicing alone, but then in real life I freeze, because real life is the pitch.
Exactly. And the goal isn't to force yourself into terrifying situations, it's to notice the pattern. When you go quiet, you're not just avoiding embarrassment, you're also starving your brain of the very practice that would make speaking easier.
So, the question shifts. It's not, why am I not brave? It's, how often am I disappearing? That's a bit confronting.
Yeah, it is. But it's also hopeful, because frequency is something you can change. Personality is harder. And once we see it as I'm doing fewer reps, we can ask the next question, which is the real one. What makes mistakes feel so costly that silence looks like the only option?
That last question you asked, Jan, about why mistakes feel so costly, I think that's the bit people don't say out loud. Because it's not really I'm scared of grammar. It's more like I'm scared of what people will think of me.
Yeah, and once we name it, everything suddenly makes more sense. Because most people aren't afraid of English, they're afraid of losing face in English. That's the real enemy in the room.
And losing face can happen so quickly. Like, it's not even someone being mean. Sometimes it's just a look.
Exactly. A look, a tiny pause, a correction in front of other people. And that's why I don't love the way we talk about this as confidence, because it isn't just confidence, it's context. It's what your brain has learned a mistake means in that room.
This is making me think of school. You know when the teacher corrects you and you can feel your face get hot? Even if the teacher isn't trying to embarrass you, your body takes it that way.
And once your body files it under humiliation risk, speaking stops being a language task and becomes a social risk. So you're not managing vocabulary, you're managing reputation.
That's such a sharp way to put it, because it explains why I can know the word but still not say it. I'm not blocked by English, I'm blocked by the moment.
Exactly, and this is where we need a bit of a rethink about perfectionism. People assume perfectionism means you're just very proud or you just want everything perfect, but actually there are two flavours.
2 flavors? Like ice cream?
Kind of, yeah. One flavour is I want to improve. That can be healthy. It can push you to try, to communicate, to get better. The other flavour is I must not look imperfect in front of people, and that one is heavy. That one tends to sit right next to anxiety.
So it's not that caring is the problem, it's caring about the wrong thing at the wrong time.
That's a great way to put it, because wanting to improve is basically fuel, but fearing public imperfection is like a brake. And you can have both in the same person, which is why it feels confusing.
And the worst part is, the fear one shows up in exactly the moments where you need to speak, like in class, in a meeting, or in an exam room.
Yes, and notice what all those places have in common. They're high-stakes environments. They make mistakes feel expensive, so your brain isn't thinking, let's practice. It's thinking, don't get hurt.
Okay, let me make it real for listeners. In class, you answer, and someone corrects you, and everyone heard it. It's like a little sting. At work, you're mid-sentence, you forget a word, and you can feel the awkward gap. And in speaking exams, your mind goes blank, and suddenly your heart is pounding like you're being chased.
That's so accurate. And none of that is about not knowing English. It's your nervous system reacting to social cost, which means we should stop calling it fear of mistakes and start calling it what it really is, risk management.
Risk management sounds very grown up, like I need a spreadsheet.
Please don't, but it's useful because it moves the problem from personality to design. If it's risk, then we can ask, how risky is this environment and how can I make the cost smaller?
And it also explains why someone can sound fine when they're relaxed, but fall apart when they're watched, because the cost changes.
Exactly. And here's the thing that makes people feel a bit better, I think. If you're struggling, it doesn't mean you're weak. It might simply mean you're practicing in a high-cost setting and expecting low-cost performance.
So it's like trying to learn to drive for the first time on the motorway during rush hour.
Yes, and then you think, I'm terrible at driving, but actually the situation is brutal. If you moved to an empty car park, you'd learn faster and you'd feel calmer. Language is the same.
So the big shift in this chapter is I'm not just scared, I'm reacting to cost, and cost can be adjusted.
That's spot on, and once you see it that way, you stop arguing with yourself like, come on, be brave. Instead, you get practical. You ask, what would make this safer for my brain?
And it also makes me kinder to myself, because I've been treating this like a character flaw, but it's more like my brain is doing its job, maybe too well.
Exactly. Your brain is protecting your social self, which is why, again, you're not afraid of English. You're afraid of embarrassment in English. And once we name that, we can talk about what to do with it, rather than just telling people to toughen up.
So what I'm taking from this is the mistake isn't the monster. The monster is the meaning attached to the mistake.
Exactly, and that brings us neatly to the next step. Because once you understand the cost, the next question becomes, how do we make mistakes recoverable? How do we make them low cost so your brain stays in the conversation instead of sprinting to the emergency exit?
That phrase you use, Jen, recoverable mistakes, I love it. Because I don't need someone to shout, be confident at me. I need a situation where I can mess up and still stay dignified, like I can recover without wanting to disappear into the carpet.
Disappear into the carpet is very relatable. And yes, recoverable mistakes are the whole point, because if mistakes feel like a cliff edge, your brain won't go near them. But if mistakes feel like a little wobble you can correct, your brain stays in the game.
So what does recoverable mean in real life? Because right now it still sounds a bit like a nice slogan.
Fair. Let's make it concrete. A mistake is most valuable when it gives you feedback you can actually use, and it gives it to you quickly, so next time you can do better. If the feedback comes 3 days later or it's too vague, your brain can't connect the dots.
Oh, like when someone just says, "That's wrong," and then moves on, and you're sitting there thinking, "Brilliant, but what was wrong?"
Exactly. Wrong is not feedback, it's a verdict, and verdicts don't help you update. What helps you update is information, something you can notice, compare, and adjust.
So, recoverable mistakes are the ones that come with usable info, not just judgment.
That's it. And here's the reasoning, without turning it into a checklist. If feedback needs to be quick, then you need an environment that actually responds to you. That could be a person, or it could be an audio clip, or even you recording yourself and noticing something. But there has to be a response.
Because if nothing answers back, I don't know what to change. I just repeat the same thing, but louder.
Exactly, and then if the feedback is just the correct answer thrown at you, it still doesn't always stick. Because your brain didn't do the work of noticing the gap. It didn't get that, "Oh, that's the difference" moment.
So it's not just tell me the right answer, it's help me see what I did versus what works.
Yes, because when you spot the difference yourself, it becomes yours. It's like you're not just memorizing, you're calibrating. And calibration is what makes speaking smoother over time.
Okay, but I can already hear some listeners thinking, fine, but in real life, nobody gives me nice feedback. People just carry on, or they look confused, or they correct me bluntly.
That's true, real life isn't a classroom with handouts, but that's why recoverable mistakes aren't about finding perfect teachers. They're about choosing situations where the cost is low enough that you can try again, because try again is the secret ingredient.
So if the cost is low, I can afford a wobble. If the cost is high, one wobble feels like disaster.
Exactly. And once you accept that, you stop throwing yourself into high-risk situations and hoping adrenaline will save you. You start thinking like, where can I practice with a safety net? Not a huge one, just enough to keep you speaking.
A safety net that isn't silence, because my old safety net was just shutting up.
Exactly. We want a safety net that keeps you active. So here's a simple standard, and I'll keep it human. After you speak, do you get something back that helps you adjust? And can you have another go within the same moment or at least soon after? If yes, that mistake is recoverable.
That feels doable. It's not 10 steps to fluency. It's just a question I can ask about my practice.
And it also explains why some people work incredibly hard but don't improve much. Their environment only gives them right or wrong. No clue what the gap is. So they keep repeating, but they're repeating blindly.
That is depressing, but also helpful, because then it's not, I'm hopeless, it's my feedback is rubbish.
And that is something you can change. You can choose better feedback sources, you can choose practice where you can notice differences, and if you can notice differences, your brain updates.
So, recoverable mistakes are basically mistakes that come with a way back. You're not stuck in the wrong version forever.
Exactly. And once mistakes have a way back, they're less scary, which means you'll speak more. And when you speak more, you get more data. And when you get more data, you improve. It's the same loop, but finally going in the right direction.
And I'm guessing this is where the next chapter could go, right? Because some people genuinely don't know what they're doing wrong. They just get a score or a no, and that's it.
That's a perfect bridge, because if all you ever get is correct versus incorrect, you'll feel stuck. But if you learn how to get informative feedback and how to spot your own patterns, everything starts moving. We can unpack that properly next time.
So for now, the takeaway is, don't bully yourself into high-risk speaking. Choose practice where mistakes are affordable, feedback is quick, and you can have another go.
That's spot on. And if you do that, you'll notice something. You won't feel fearless overnight, but you'll feel less trapped, and that's how progress starts to feel real.
I really like where we've landed today. It's not just speak more, and it's not stop being scared. It's more make the cost smaller so your brain stays in the conversation. And that feels a lot more realistic.
Yeah, and if we wrap it into one line you can actually take with you, it's this. You're not trying to become someone who never makes mistakes. You're trying to become someone who can keep functioning even when you do. Because English isn't a performance, it's a mode. It's your brain running a different operating system for a moment.
That operating system image is so helpful because when I'm in performance mode, every sentence feels like it has to be impressive. But when I'm in mode, it's more like I'm just trying to get my meaning across.
Exactly. And when you treat language as proof, you end up freezing. But when you treat language as a tool, you start moving. You make faster choices, you express yourself quicker, and you understand the world quicker too. That's what language is for.
And it also makes mistakes feel less dramatic. Like, a mistake is just a signal, not a verdict on my intelligence. Which is nice, because my inner critic is exhausting.
Same. And if today's episode helped you look at mistakes differently, do us a favor. Give it a like, subscribe, and share it with that friend who apologizes before every sentence, even when they're doing fine. It might genuinely help them breathe.
And next time you get stuck mid-sentence, don't sentence yourself straight away. Just ask, am I scared of being wrong, or am I scared of the cost of being wrong? That one question can change the whole moment.
That's a brilliant note to end on. All right, we'll leave it there for today. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.